I've enjoyed listening to the zip code plays. I've listened to all of them, all the seasons, and I think that when you are in this COVID world, especially, I've gotten into podcasts a little bit, which I hadn't before, and the discovery that you find out. But not only that, but in each of these iterations of zip codes, I've learned something about a zip code that I didn't know about, or either that, or it kind of uh, what's the word I'm looking for? It deepened my knowledge of certain parts of LA. I've been in LA for it'll be 40 years soon, and I'm still surprised to find out new things. And I just found out a lot of new locations, and it was just fascinating. So I think one of the things that they have at the website is to do sort of a tour, an online tour of these locations, and I think that's pretty fascinating. I think a lot of people in LA could possibly know that there's sound studios all over Los Angeles, but probably a lot of people who aren't in the business don't know that the majority of them are in Burbank, that those kind of things, or, the Frog Town, that one in particular, that you learn about these frogs, and I just didn't know about that. So there's a lot of fascinating things. There's the new one. I first moved here and I lived in Glendale, and I went to Brand Park a lot. And there's one about Brand Park on this round. And it's just some fascinating history that I just didn't know about. And it makes you dig a little bit more, if you're a curious person, into, wow, I didn't know that. That's a fascinating story. And these group of writers have dug in and found some really fascinating stories in each of these zip codes. But I think also in them, there's a lot of lessons to be learned, whether it's tolerance or love, or any of these human emotions that we have. There's a lot in there that is discussed that I think will grab your heart, and in many cases it will make you laugh too. So I think they're just like little nuggets, especially again in this COVID world that we're currently living in. These little nuggets of escape, but while you're escaping with the humanity and these great performances and writing and directing, then you also you get some knowledge. Hi, my name is Steve Apostolina. I am the playwright of True Sound, zip code 91505. And if you want to find more about it, listen to this conversation. Well, I heard about it at the same time the rest of the lab heard about it. They were doing, because of COVID, they wanted to do something different. And I think Bill Brochtrup and Kitty Swink and Anna Rose O'Halloran came up with a very clever idea to do these zip code plays and do something different, because people were already very quickly getting Zoom fatigue. And so to do this kind of podcast drama, radio type play, I think was a great idea. So they put out a call to the lab members for pitches. And I didn't pitch, I just wrote a piece because I thought, I'll just write it. And I wrote it, and they chose 6 others. I think it was 6, just really, really good pieces in the first round. And then the second round, they chose this piece of mine called True Sound. And it was a great experience. It was a challenge. I'd never written for just the audio world in itself, but I'd been part of the audio world through voiceover for 25, almost 30 years. So it's a world I knew quite well. Like I said, I make my living doing voiceover, and And I thought, I live in Burbank, and Burbank is probably home to, I don't know, I'm throwing out a number, but at least 60 and maybe 70% of the post-production houses that we use most often, and including places like Warner Brothers and we're close by Universal, and there's just so many post-production houses that happen here. And so I thought, well, a Hollywood story might be kind of interesting. And then I also thought about sound, because it was an audio play, and I thought, well, I don't want to do voiceover, but I thought Foley might be a good idea. And I'd been privy to a couple of Foley sessions. A couple of friends had brought me down to, I say down because sometimes they're often like in basements. And this studio happened to be in a basement, and I got to see how Foley was run. And I thought that might be a challenge, not only for me to write with all these sounds available, but to challenge our sound guru, Jeff Gardner. And he just did a magnificent job with all the sounds. I really challenged him with a variety of sounds, but incorporated it into the story. And so that was the inspiration, was to write from there. I don't want to have any spoilers, but I will tell you that it takes place on a late evening when they are working on a horror film called 13 Below. And the mixer, the person in the booth, Jazz, is working there. And there is a young lady who is coming in to be an apprentice, to learn a bit about Foley from this old time guy who's been around for 40, 50 years, named Ron. And I let's just say that it's a light piece that turns very dark. That's all I'll say. Have a listen, and then you'll find out. But it's quite interesting, and it incorporates the sound into the story. And the piece is called True Sound. Well, first of all, we had a director, Gregg T. and Gregg has directed all over town, and actually was going to direct a full-length play of mine at one point, and then he got booked elsewhere and was unable to do it. But I'd wanted to work with him, and so he was on board. He read it and loved it. And he and I are almost exactly the same age. I'm about a month older than he is. And so our shorthand was really natural when we made references to certain iconic films or whatever, especially from our time period. We got each other right away. And so that was wonderful. He was very good with the actors. And the actors were just fantastic. Peter Van Norden plays the older man, and Cherish Monique Duke plays the mixer, and Emily Goss plays the woman who comes in to apprentice and learn. And we only had, I think, 2 total hours of rehearsal, but they worked so hard in that brief amount of time. And then you have to factor in that Jeff Gardner, the sound designer, Foley, everything sonically, he has to put his input in as well in these rehearsals to say, hey, have you thought about this? He does that ahead of time looking at the script, but once you read it and you can see, it's really quite a ballet of choreography to get this done in the amount of time that they did. And I was just flabbergasted. But the whole team was fantastic, and I was very fortunate to have them bring my words to life. The main difference to writing for live theater and for an audio play is that you have to, at least I have to, and I've only written one, so I'm speaking from a novice point of view, but in the audio play, you have to constantly pull yourself back and realize, okay, the audience is only hearing this. So all the information that can come with body language, with action, all of this has to be conveyed through the line and through the voice. And so there's a lot of things that you can do visually that you can't. And so you just have to, at least I did, I would close my eyes. I would read it to myself and record it and close my eyes and think, is this conveying what I'm trying to convey? And then, of course, certain things that you don't think of that our sound guy, Jeff, would say, well, have you thought about this sound? Because they're in this room, so we need to establish this room. Or this is in the booth, so we need to establish they're in the booth. How does that sound different? What are the differences? So it's a bit of a challenge, but it was a lot of fun to do. I want them to, first and foremost, I want them to be involved in a great story. I want to put them on a ride. And then, like most of my pieces, I want to surprise them. And that's one of the things that I tend to do is I rarely, almost never write with an outline. And one of the reasons I do that is because as I write, I tend to surprise myself by going in a direction that I had no idea that's where it was going to go. And sometimes it's, just a treasure hunt and it's fruitless, but a lot of times you go in a direction that you don't think you had meant to go in the original concept, and you find gold. So I really want to take the audience on a ride. I want them to be involved with these characters, and I just want them to be surprised in a good way, and hope they come away thinking, wow, that was fun and entertaining. And I think that's one of the things I always try to do in my pieces. I love to have pieces where people will talk about the ending or the theme after the show, but also, most importantly, I want them to be entertained. If they're not entertained, they're not going to be interested in the piece. So it has to be entertaining. Hi, my name is Steve Apostolina. My zip code play, 91505, is called True Sound. And to find that and all the other zip code plays, go to antaeus.org. And under that, you can find the zip code plays. And I hope you come in and give a listen.